All right, let's get started. So, yes, if you just joined the last 20 seconds or so, welcome. Welcome to today's webinar, From Alert to Action, Monitoring with Tikit. Yeah, it's great to see so many customers in the session today. Lots of names I know, lots of names I don't know, which is also really exciting. Um, I'm going to start off today with a little story. About my time in IT service management, working a help desk. When I first arrived, my first ever job was on an IT help desk. And I walked into the office, my first time really in an office even, and I was blown away by the screens on the wall with all the charts and alarms and colors to kind of indicate the health of the infrastructure estate at this organization. More TV screens than I've ever seen in one place before, with all kinds of flashy colored things going on. It was really impressive. Didn't know what any of it meant or what to do when any of it changed color, but I was impressed. And obviously, I got into that job and I was able to interpret all that. And I was there a little while. It got to a point actually where they trusted me enough. And bear in mind, this is a long time ago. They trusted me enough to work from home sometime, not full time, a few days a week, because I was quite far from the office. Um, so off I went home with my laptop, started getting on my job, and then it occurred to us we'd overlooked a big issue. When all the stuff went down, which it always did in those days, the wall boards in the office all went crazy red and flashy. I was sat at home having a great time, completely unaware of any of it.
No alerting.
No, no actual indication other than the visual boards in the office. Now, fast forward to where we are today in 2025, everyone's working, a spread out workforce, lots of home working, lots of hybrid working. It's not possible for us all to have 20 wall screens in our home office or wherever we are. So we need obviously a better solution. And we need a solution back then, and we need it now even more. So the obvious solution back then was to generate tickets into our very old, very legacy ticketing tool, as they were back then, from the monitoring tools. And as I say, that story has not changed today. So if you're using Ticket and you're currently sat looking at a wall screen, worse because you're at home or somewhere else from the main office where the wall screen is, then stay in this webinar because you're going to learn how to integrate that system to Ticket so you can bring all those alerts through as tickets, access them through Tikit where you're working anyway, and make sure you're in the loop of everything that's going on. Right, well, let's get into who we are. Now I've been talking for long enough. Some of you may know me. I'm Jeff. That photo doesn't do me justice because it's far too obviously black and white. I like to wear bright colored shirts, and that doesn't come across in the black and white.
What color is your shirt today, Jeff?
It is the brightest pink shirt ever been made. And
Okay.
it's made even brighter pink by my pink lighting in my office.
Excellent.
With me today is Justin and Ben. Let these guys introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Justin. I work with Jeff, not physically often, although we did recently work together physically, but we're both on the customer, we're all three on the customer success team.
Yep. Hi, my name's Ben Anderson. Yep, also on the customer success team. We're both professional services and consultants with Saracen and Tikit. So hello.
Awesome. Quick bit of housekeeping. I'll run through this agenda in a second, but just to let you know that the session is being recorded. It will be shared. We posted to YouTube in a couple of days' time, hopefully less than that, but maybe a couple of days' time. And if you have questions, the Q&A panel is open. So you'll find in the menu of Teams Q&A, and you can go and throw your questions in there. Throughout the webinar, we'll be monitoring that. If it's a relevant question to what we're talking about right now, we might interrupt each other and voice those questions on your behalf. If it's more of a kind of wait to the end question, then we will probably leave it to the end. So we will see how we go, but we will be answering all questions at some point. So, and if we run out of time, which I don't think we will, but if we do, we will follow up by email. So all questions will get answered in some way or other. So just throw them in the question box in the question and answer panel, and we will get them answered. So yes, very simple agenda for today. I can only muster 4 words. Why? And hopefully my story resonated to some of you, but we're going to just look at a couple of scenarios of why we should be doing this, why we should be integrating our monitoring tools into Tikit, what that sort of looks like, and then how we're going to do that. And that's going to obviously all come together in a demo at the end. So yeah, why connect monitoring to Tikit? What's the reason there? Well, it's just like I was saying, it's about bringing those alerts, making them visible to where your team are already working. If you're using Tikit, then hopefully your IT workers, your agents spend hopefully a good amount of time in there, working those tickets and checking for new ones and managing them and so on. And if not, then they're going to have good notifications already configured through Tikit. If you need help with that, then do reach out to the customer success team. If you need help with alerts and notifications through Tikit, hopefully you've got that going on. So when new tickets are raised that meet certain criteria, the right people are notified. So by bringing your alert data into that structure, you've already got all that in place. You've already got your team in there. You've already got visibility. You've already got reporting, and you've already got notifications. That's going to avoid the I can't see the wallboard scenario. And then secondly, sort of beyond that, we can go a bit deeper. These alerts, like any other, ticket, request, issue coming from anywhere else in the business system or from another person. We want the whole reason we're using Tikit is to track those things, to assign them, so we can group all our conversation, our comments around them together. We can collaborate by bringing in collaborators onto that ticket. If there's attachments that can become part of the ticket, all becomes part of it, all gets kept together and monitored as one. And hopefully you got a chance to play with the very latest ticket feature, group chat, which was released this week, or maybe last week. I've lost track of time. I think it was last week, wasn't it? Yeah. And that allows you to spin up a group chat within Teams to talk about a particular ticket. So that's going to be a valuable tool when it comes to monitoring and alerts, because when there's a high priority issue, by having it integrated ticket, it can spin up a group chat, and there you go. There's your place to go and talk about it. Get the right people in that chat to talk about what's going on, how we're going to fix it, rather than everyone kind of scrambling and 2 people phoning up to each other and someone else, in a channel, and no one's in the same place. So it's a great way to be efficient and work together to solve these alerts. How's it kind of work? What do we need to put in place here? Well, there's obviously multiple integration methods, and there's sort of 3 I want to just call out in sort of increasing order of complexity, but also functionality. Email is a great way to get started. Your monitoring tool will probably be able to send emails when it has alarms going off, and you can point that towards a mailbox that Tikit is monitoring. Maybe you spin up another team, another mailbox just for that, to keep it kind of separate and organized, and you can then build automations around it. But that's going to be able to create tickets from your monitoring tool very, very simply. You can get that going almost immediately. If you want to go a bit deeper, then you can use Power Automate. Tikit has a full capable Power Automate library. So you can create tickets, you can update tickets all through Power Automate. Whatever monitor tool you're using, there's a good chance it will also have a Power Automate connector. We just passed 1,300 connectors in the Power Platform, which is really exciting. So many tools have got that same thing. And if not, then you can still use Power Automate with a little bit of API magic if your monitoring tool does not have a connector. Going all the way to the end in a kind of pro code, yes, you could go and completely build a custom app with the APIs and development. If you've got those kind of skills and abilities, then that would be something interesting to do as well. We're going to sort of focus on that middle, that sweet spot in the middle, the Goldilocks solution, using Power Automate to integrate our monitoring tool into Tikit. And it doesn't matter what monitoring tool you're using. What we're going to present today is relevant for anything. I speak to customers all the time, and I'm always curious kind of what other tools people are using in the Microsoft space, outside of the Microsoft space. And it does seem that, there's a lot of tools out there and people are using all kinds of array of tools. But today we're going to present something that's completely agnostic from any tool. It will work, whatever you're using. So we'll get into that. Last bit of slides for me, and then we'll get into the demo. I'm sure you're excited to see it. I certainly am. So we have got these two scenarios. This is what we need. We need two kind of bits of logic to handle these two scenarios. We want to handle when there's a new alarm, something has happened, a new event. And secondly, when that alarm gets closed, we want to also handle that scenario. That's like a little bonus. Maybe you don't. That could be a kind of seen as a phase 2 if you want to start simple and increment, which I do recommend. This is all new to you. So in that new alarm scenario, the first thing that's going to happen, we're going to trigger a webhook. Your monitoring tool, if it was built this century, will be able to trigger webhooks when there's alarms. And that doesn't matter what technology you're using, that's going to be in there. So we're going to trigger a webhook. There's your alarm. Then we're going to have a Power Automate flow, receiving that webhook, listening out for it and receiving that webhook. That's going to create a ticket. Within Tikit, we can actually pull bits of data out of that, out of the kind of metadata of that alarm, put that into our ticket. And here's some lovely magic. Then we're going to, once we create a ticket, we get a ticket ID, like any other ticket. We're going to send that back to the monitoring tool so it can actually store that as part of its data. And that's very handy in the next piece here. So yeah, that next one, the second scenario we're going to build a flow for is that alarm closed. So once that's fixed, and whether it kind of self-heals, you've got self-healing scripts going on, whether it's sort of fixed by a third party and you're still monitoring it, but it's not actually in your control and they fix it, or maybe you go and actually fix it, and probably get none of the credit either way. But either way, once that's fixed, that alarm is going to get closed. That monitoring tool will notice that that service is restored, whatever that might be. And then we want to do a second process. So again, very similar. We're going to trigger a webhook. This may all look familiar to you because next we're going to have Power Automate listening for that webhook and receive its data. And if that includes the ticket ID from when that first ran, that first process ran and creates a ticket and we sent it back, if that includes the ticket ID, then finally we can actually resolve that ticket within the ticket. So once it's fixed, you can actually resolve that ticket as well. So you don't need to even go in and do that manual step. And I think that leads me over to the demo. So I'm going to bring back Justin and Ben. We're going to kick us into the demo.
I'm just getting my screen share going here. Give me one moment. So in our scenario today, I'm going to be the kind of ticket admin / automation admin, and Ben is my alerting admin. So I'm going to build this flow that Jeff was just talking about, the first piece anyway, when an alert is generated, we want to capture that and we want to create a ticket off of it. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. I'm going to select Instant Cloudflow because I'm going to start with the HTTP trigger and say alert generated, create a ticket. And I'm going to pick this when an HTTP request is received, and that's how I'm going to receive the HTTP payload or webhook coming out of the alerting tool. I'm going to start with an empty request body, and the request body JSON schema is what kind of tells me the properties of the alert as it comes into this flow, but I don't know those yet. So I'm just starting with a pair of curly braces, and I'm going to leave that as is for now. I'm going to select anyone rather than any user in my tenant or specific users in my tenant, because if I don't select anyone, then that means we'd have to supply a bunch of authentication information to the alert tool, which may not actually handle that, or maybe it's just more complicated. Certainly for this demo, anyone is going to be the easy way to go. And then because I don't have a schema yet, I don't know the payload shape, I don't know the schema of that payload, I'm actually going to go ahead and create a parse JSON again with an empty schema, and I'm going to use the body from the inbound payload to help me identify that schema. If you notice, the URL that the alerting tool needs to send to is basically obfuscated until after this flow is saved. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and it's going to generate a flow, and then I'm going to send that URL to Ben once it's saved, and he is going to help me by triggering an alert, and then we'll see the shape of that payload. So there's my URL. And again, because anybody can send it, our alert tool can fire to this right away. So Ben, you should have that URL now.
Got it.
I'm going to duplicate my tab here so I don't get out of the kind of edit screen, but I can go look at this flow and look at the execution history. So once Ben triggers that alert, I'll be able to see the shape of that payload. There we go. 6 seconds ago, I got an alert trigger. And if we look at either the trigger output or the parse JSON, you can see there's the alert payload that we got. If I look at the parse JSON, it should look pretty similar. And now what I can do is I can take this.
So you can see all the data of that alert.
That's right.
Is all in that.
So now I can take that payload in its entirety, and I'm going to, actually, I'll just edit this one in place. I am going to go ahead and continue to use parse JSON. I could adjust the schema on the trigger, but sometimes that causes issues with the HTTP when you change that schema. So I'm just going to go ahead and use parse JSON. I'm going to click, I don't know, I did that pretty fast, use sample payload to generate schema. So I'm going to take the payload that I received to generate that schema. And it generates that schema for me with all the types of the properties that exist on that payload. And one of the big benefits of doing that, whether including the schema in the trigger or parsing it this way, is it allows me to see these pieces when I'm building subsequent actions, like create a new ticket. So I'm going to search for create a new ticket. There it is. And I'm actually gonna save this before I try to include any parameters, because again, sometimes Power Automate gets weird when you try to add too many things at once. So I'm gonna make this new. It's gonna be a high priority ticket, and I'm gonna call it an alert So I'm just going to save that. Try to save in Power Automate. It's a good idea to kind of save in chunks. That way, if something goes terribly wrong, which does sometimes happen in Power Automate, you have a good safe point to back up to, and you don't lose too much work. So I'm going to start editing the request. So this is going to be the request or title of the ticket in Tikit. And I'm going to drop in some of these parameters into that request. So you can see I get all of this good stuff. These are all of the data points that kind of came through that payload from the alerting tool. I'm going to start with severity. And so my ticket request title is going to be, let's say it's critical. I think that was the severity on this one. It's going to say critical alert. And then I'm going to include some bit of data about what's actually happening. We've got like the host, where the alert was triggered. That might be good. All this other stuff. I'm just going to include the message. I'm just going to keep it simple. So it'll just be kind of the message of that alert. You may, think about when you're shaping this request, you don't necessarily want it to get really super lengthy, because as we know, like when we're looking in the ticket grid, if we have something super long, it just gets hard to read. So think about how you want to shape that request when if you go this route and you're interpreting these alerts. But that looks good to me right now. And then the last thing that I'm going to do for this flow is I'm going to, actually, like I'll do what I said. I'll save in chunks. So now that I've updated that ticket with these parameters coming out of that payload, I'm going to go ahead and save that. If I got another alert right now, this would immediately create another ticket. But the crucial step that's missing is I'm not passing the ticket ID back to my alerting tool, so I don't know which ticket to resolve when I get the
we'll
other
come to that
piece.
second bit without that.
Exactly. So mine uses an HTTP. It just has an API. It doesn't have a connector. It's not fancy like Tikit. So I'm going to build out the request to my monitoring tool. It's going to be a post. And that body is going to have a ticket ID, which I'll add from the ID that was generated from create a new ticket. So this is the ID of the ticket that is created. Tikit passes that back to the flow once it's created. And then we're going to include the monitor ID from our initial payload, letting it know to kind of bind the ticket ID with that particular monitor. My JSON is good. I will change the title of this to update alert with ticket ID. And I'll save that. Hopefully, like I said, saving in chunks helps. If it doesn't, something goes terribly wrong, you can back up and perfect, it saved just like we expected. So now I'm going to ask Ben to go ahead and issue me another alert.
Ben's just pulling wires out, whatever he's doing to cause things to break, right?
Right, exactly.
That's exactly what I did.
Pushing
Production's
buttons.
down.
Oh no, oh no. If we go over to Tikit now and we give that a refresh, we see, yes, exactly. We got a critical alert. The average API response time exceeded 800 milliseconds for 5 seconds. Oh no.
Not good, not good.
Not good. Okay, so the other piece of this, so this flow is basically good. So the next piece that we want to do is we want to create a new flow to handle, like Jeff said, when the alert is resolved in the alerting tool, the monitoring tool, we want to be able to resolve our ticket in Tikit. So create another instant cloud flow with that same trigger, but I'm going to call it alert resolved. And it's again going to be the same trigger when an HTTP request is received. Again, I'll have to get the URL after I save the flow for the first time. Again, switching to anyone for all the same reasons. All the basic setup is roughly the same. There's parse JSON, again, going to provide that empty schema so that I get the shape again. I could probably use the same schema, but I'll just go ahead and go through those same steps. Again, I'm going to select body as it's coming out of the trigger. I'm going to save that.
It's an interesting like catch-22, right? Ben doesn't know the URL, you don't know the schema, and you sort of have to do it step
Work
by step
together.
to kind of solve it out. Yeah.
That's right. So Ben, hey Ben, I'm gonna give you this URL. Oh, and my Teams has just disappeared. Lovely. Like
You can just read it
literally.
out too.
Yeah, okay. HTTPS. You should have the new URL now.
These are long, people. These are very long URLs.
All right, I got it.
All right, so if you could send me that resolution payload so I can get a glimpse of that.
All right, resolved.
Excellent. Go ahead and open that alert back up because we're going to resolve it again here in just a moment. Now we can look at our output. You can see that it's basically the same.
See,
It
the
does.
state has been swapped. So like previous and current state. So now it's okay.
Oh, okay means it's resolved. Excellent. And we also have our incident ID, which is also brilliant.
That was the ticket ID of the ticket was created, 2178.
2178.
Nice.
Very cool. So we're gonna copy that, and then we'll give this flow an edit. You got that alert back open, Ben?
Yeah.
Because we're gonna resolve it again here in just a moment. So this time I'm just gonna update a ticket since I'm not creating one. I'm going to update a ticket. Did I paste that? I didn't. I need to do that. Generate that schema again. That is going to allow me to pop in that incident ID. When I go look up this ticket, we're looking it up based on let me save this parse JSON again. Save in chunks. Save in chunks. Power Automate is brilliant when the flow is complete, but in the construction phase, it's like road construction. You know, you're just ready for it to be over. But
And
happy
sometimes
when
you have to sort of making your building chunks, right? Because you don't know that payload until you run it at least once. So you have to build it in chunks. You have to build it kind of a shell, run it once, get the thing out of it. So you have to build it in chunks sequentially.
And then again, Power Automate just randomly disconnects you from from the connector. All good. Still don't have. It's so weird. We're getting some bits. So actually, I'm gonna go manual. Oh, there we are. Yeah, it's weird. The UI was just not giving me all the pieces I need. So I'm looking for incident ID.
The search bar right there. Okay.
There we go. So we're going to get the incident ID from our parse JSON, and then we're going to select the status of resolved. And so now I'm going to save that. again, saving chunks, hoping for the best. Power Automate does get finicky.
Yeah, to be fair, you are running it in a dev Power Automate environment, which
I'm their lowest priority. That's correct.
probably doesn't help. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys will be running in production, you'll be fine.
Yeah, indeed. Dev creates all kinds of fun quirks.
Come
Saving.
on, we've come this far. We've come this far.
Saving.
Can't fail now.
Saving. There we are. All right. So, Ben, one more time, if you could resolve that alert.
All right.
Now, the moment of truth.
I'm standing by with the confetti cannon.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it just a couple seconds, let Power Automate do its thing in the background, give it a refresh. And we can see that it was resolved. And not only was it resolved as a result of that Power Automate flow, we also got a resolution date thanks to our out-of-the-box automation. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Awesome. Great.
Thank you very much, Ben. That was super helpful.
Of course, anytime. Great job, Justin.
All right, I'm just going to wrap us up here. Thank you so much, guys. That was fantastic. I've got a couple of slides just to see us out, but yeah, I think we learned a couple of things there. We learned that to do this, you need a friendly monitoring tool admin. Who will happily send you payloads and play with you like that. That's great. We definitely learned saving chunks. That's the new catchphrase of the day. Yeah, we learned that with not too much fiddling around, a little bit, the right amount, then we have to do this integration of the monitoring tool into tickets to create the ticket in the first place and then resolve it. Fantastic. So questions just come in before I move on to my final slide, saying that yeah, they didn't catch which tool we were integrating the flow with. And I did say when we started, we're being tool agnostic because we know that across our customer base, across the industry, there's so many different monitoring tools in place for different kind of use cases, different sectors. So what we've shown is that you can integrate ticket with any tool by using either Power Automate or using webhooks and API calls, which any relatively modern tool will absolutely definitely support. So yeah, we're tool agnostic because we can work with anything. Is the answer to your question. Great question though. I just want to kind of wrap up with a sort of taking it further slide. Look, today is a fantastic demo. Thank you so much to team. It all worked perfectly, despite the couple of nervous wobbles with Power Automate taking a while to save. These guys are fantastic, and they wanted to build out this kind of full actual end-to-end production solution. And we said, let's keep it simple for the demo. But there were some great ideas we were planning this webinar of what might actually make it a little bit more real-world useful, a little bit more production ready. So I've got a couple of ideas of how you might want to take this further as well if you're going to go and build this out. Firstly, you could store the alarm details into a custom form. It's a great idea. If you've got a template already built out in Ticket with a form where you'd kind of track what the issue was, you could still, through Power Automate, actually create a ticket with that template and populate the values onto that form. So then you'd see the details of that alert, not just the sort of the message like we did in the request title, but you can see all the information of it in a custom form, and you pop open custom form answers in the ticket portal. So yeah, that'd be a great way to give you more of that rich information. You might want more than just a title. You might want to kind of see what's the actual affected system, what's the details, when did it go down, and so on. So you could actually build that into a form. That'd be a very cool way of bringing that all through. Two two-way close sync. So in the scenario we talked about, we're saying, oh yeah, you'd fix the issue, and then the monitoring tool realizes that and sends that second one we saw that resolves the ticket. Not all tools work like that. Some tools don't sort of notice the fix, they just notice that it went wrong in the first place. So that wouldn't be possible. Or either way, if it does, you might do a two-way sync. So that if you resolve the ticket, it can resolve the alarm. So you could build a kind of backwards version of that second scenario, where when a ticket is resolved, if it's of a certain type alarm or it meets a criteria that means it's one of these types of ticket, it could send that that fact that it's been resolved back to the monitoring tool and close off the alarm. So it disappears off the wallboard or off any other kind of view reporting and so on, and it's captured that the resolve time was at that moment. And then this is what I actually thought about as you were when you were doing that create ticket piece, and you were kind of filling in the priority and the category of the ticket and so on. Those sorts of things, the actual properties of the ticket. And the example here in my slide is the assignment. Any of those things you may want to set dynamically based on what that alarm is all about. So you could set the priority based on the kind of severity value of the alarm. You could set the category based on the kind of category of where that what service is affected. You could assign the ticket based on the owner of that application that you've got trapped in that monitoring tool. Whoever looks after it, they'll be the owner of that ticket, to deal with the fact that it's gone down. So all those ticket properties, you could hard code them just like in the demo, but doing some sort of dynamic population of those fields, particularly assignment, could be a nice way to make this a little bit more kind of production ready. So I think that is us. Yeah. So we will as always, we have time for more questions. If you don't want to ask your question now, likely if you're like me, you'll think of it the very second you get off the call. Then you can always find us at help@starhorizon.com. Reach out to us. We'd happily get on a call to discuss this with you, talk through what your process might look like. We do offer consultancy services if you would like this just built end to end. If you don't have the time to kind of dig into it yourself and just want it done, then that might be something that we can do for you. Again, just get in touch and we can discuss. But yeah, that is the end of our session today, but we're going to hang out for another few moments. I can see actually one more question came in. Great. Yes, the session will be published to YouTube. So, and then it'll be notified to all the socials and the newsletter and that kind of stuff. But if you're desperate, then just refresh our YouTube channel every 30 minutes starting tomorrow, and you'll see it pop up pretty soon, I'm sure. Any other questions? I say it's not your only opportunity. You can always come back to us. So I think we'll wrap up then. So yeah, again, I'll say thank you to everyone who joined. We really appreciate your participation. Thanks again to Justin and Ben. Excellent role playing of ticket admin and monitoring admin. And we'll say goodbye to everyone. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
See you, everyone.